I'm Mr. Lonely. I don't have nobody on my own. Whoa. 3 new matches have been added to this year's WrestleMania. Future WWE TV taping plans have been revealed. And we have an update on Asuka and Cesaro's WrestleMania status. I'll tell you more in a bit. Well, what an eventful episode of SmackDown that was, eh? I can't believe that Roman Reigns defeated Triple H at WrestleMania 32 in the replay that they showed last night. However, we got 3 new matches formally announced for this year's WrestleMania. On top of that, a potential change to a match that we already knew was happening. And on top of that, a potential match cancellation. We'll talk about that in a little bit. First of all, let's talk about those 3 new matches which have been added to this year's card. First of all, the Intercontinental Championship will indeed be on the line. Sami Zayn, the champion, taking on Daniel Bryan. Now, this comes about after Drew Gulak was successful in defeating Shinsuke Nakamura with a little bit of help from his friend Daniel Bryan last night, which means that Daniel Bryan will go on to take on Sami Zayn. This is a match that it's very, very easy to get excited about. They're 2 of the best wrestlers in the world, obviously, and it'll be great to see Sami on a grand stage. Well, grand stage is a bit of a stretch this year. A big WrestleMania match for Sami Zayn. You can't really complain too much about that. And no doubt that those guys will give it their all. This is a potential for being the best match from an in-ring standpoint. I think it's fair to say. We'll run down the complete card in a little bit, but this one really stands out to me as a match which is going to be, well, just fantastic. We'll see. We'll see next week. Next up, Dolph Ziggler and Otis will have their WrestleMania match. Now, when this was rumoured 3-4 weeks ago, I guess it was now, before the whole pandemic thing and lockdown and WrestleMania going 2 days and being pre-taped and all that, when this was rumoured, I thought, oh, come on, that is not a WrestleMania-worthy match. But the more I think about this, especially given the circumstances, this is a storyline that I'm really, really invested in. And that should mean a lot going into WrestleMania. Would it have fit on a one-day WrestleMania card? Maybe not. Might have stood out like a bit of a sore thumb there. But we've got 2 days, and this could be genuinely really good. And, you know, the WWE really packing in matches on both nights of WrestleMania this year. So, yeah, I'm actually kind of excited about this one. I think this should be all right. Right. Also, the New Day and the Usos will challenge The Miz and John Morrison. At the moment, we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. I want to avoid potential spoilers. But they had a match, the Usos versus the New Day yesterday, which ended in disqualification after Miz and Morrison got involved. And then Michael Cole, in shades of bloody Raw Anonymous GM era Michael Cole, where he relays announcements, he got up and he's like, okay, right, Miz and Morrison, because it's a DQ, you won't have to take on either the Usos or the New Day. You'll have to take on both of them. And on top of that, this is something to get really excited about. It's going to be a ladder match. And that's going to be great as well. That's something, again, to get excited about. I think they're 3 really strong matches. Who knows if they'll take place in the way that they're being advertised at the moment? Anything can change, as we know. This is a very, very turbulent time. In fact, we already know that one of those matches is going to differ a little bit. I'll talk about it at the end of the video to avoid spoilers if you do want to avoid those. Also, Cena versus Bray Wyatt, or Cena versus The Fiend rather. Bray Wyatt last night challenging John Cena to a Firefly Funhouse match. So this is interesting. It's been rumoured that they were going to look at doing something a little bit different, something that didn't take place in the ring, something cinematic, and it looks like we're going to get that. Cena hasn't formally accepted that challenge, but it's been teased. It's going to happen, and I think that's going to be really interesting as well. It's really important, especially with 2 days, and especially with no crowd, etc., that these matches are really varied, not just in ring style, but in aesthetics as well, I guess. So I'm interested to see what will happen there, for sure. And finally, a match that looked like it was going to take place that now maybe not was King Corbin versus Elias. However, King Corbin yesterday was horrible. Absolutely disgraceful behaviour by King Corbin. Elias just up on a bit of staging, singing a nice little song for Corbin. Corbin comes out, and essentially the Lion King thing happens. You know, with I can't remember their names, Scar and Mufasa. and King Corbin knocks him off, legit, to the floor. Corbin's laid out on the floor. Elias is laid out on the floor, and it now looks like that match could potentially be off because Elias was taken to a local medical facility, and yeah, it looks like maybe they were writing that match off because they've perhaps got other plans for King Corbin. Now, it's been rumoured, it's been reported that we're going to get Goldberg versus Braun Strowman, but the first thing that popped into my head there was, okay, are they bigging up Corbin again as a massive horrible heel so that Goldberg can defeat him? Is that a possibility? Time will tell. Time will tell. An interesting note, Roman Reigns on WWE social media is still being teased for the Goldberg match. They haven't cancelled that. They didn't cancel that last night. As far as WWE are promoting at the moment, because I guess it's still a big money match, that's going to happen. However, we know that's almost definitely... Well, it's not going to happen. So, interesting for WWE to be doing that. Triple H popped up on last night's show. I thought, oh, okay, this is the time that they're going to... he's going to say, oh, Roman can't do it. His replacement is. That didn't happen. So, as it stands right now, this is the WrestleMania card. First of all, we got Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair for the NXT Women's Championship. We got Brock Lesnar versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. As advertised currently, we've got Goldberg versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Becky versus Shayna for the Raw Women's Championship. John Cena versus The Fiend Bray Wyatt in a match at the moment, but it's going to be a Firefly Funhouse match. We've got Bayley versus Lacey Evans versus Naomi versus Sasha versus Tamina. In a fatal 5-way elimination match for the SmackDown Women's title. We've got Taker versus AJ Styles in the Boneyard match, which looks to be a buried alive match. AJ Styles talking earlier this week about what that may be, and given the current circumstances, the state of the world, they don't want to call it anything like a buried alive match or anything similar, so they've gone with Boneyard match there. Again, a match that won't take place in the ring. That's going to be pre-taped. It's all pre-taped. That's going to be taped offset somewhere spooky. We've got Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins, just a regular match there. As it stands at the moment, as it's being advertised, we've got Miz and Morrison versus the New Day versus the Usos in a triple threat ladder match. But once again, I'll talk about that in a little bit. We've got the Street Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza as it's being advertised currently for the Raw Tag Team titles. We'll talk about that in a little bit also. We've got Elias versus King Corbin, that hasn't been cancelled yet, and we've got Edge versus Randy Orton, last man standing, and finally Sami Zayn versus Daniel Bryan for the IC Championship. So 14 matches formally announced so far. I expect a few more to be peppered in next week. We'll see where we get. It's shaping up to be a card. I don't want to say it's a WrestleMania card, but it's shaping up to be something else. I hope WWE are producing a WWE 24 documentary about this, because that would be fascinating viewing. Next up, we have a report from PW Insider regarding WWE's planned TV tapings following WrestleMania 36. Now, WWE have everything in the can up to and including the April 8th edition of NXT. So they've got next week's Raw Go Home in the can, next week's SmackDown Go Home in the can, they've got WrestleMania 36 itself in the can, they've also got the Raw After Mania in the can. That's going to look very, very different. Hot crowd always. And they've also got NXT April the 8th in the can. The one thing that they don't have yet is SmackDown. SmackDown on April the 10th hasn't been filmed yet. Now the current plan is, and this could absolutely change at any moment, is to film that on the day of the show. April 10th, they will film SmackDown. It won't go out live, but it will happen. However, this is absolutely subject to the restrictions not being extended. So those restrictions end on the 9th. WWE getting straight in there on the 10th to try and film this thing. If those restrictions on public gatherings, on WWE's ability to produce this show are extended, then I would suggest that we won't get a SmackDown and they'll air something else. Who knows what that will be? More WrestleMania matches, old episodes of SmackDown, we don't know. WWE are trying their very, very best to deliver no changes to the scheduled programming. Obviously, the circumstances are very, very difficult and WrestleMania hasn't shaped out in the way that it should have done, but we're still getting Raw and we're still getting SmackDown and we're still getting NXT every week. They're very, very different, but we're still getting them. WWE trying very, very hard to do so. If they're unable to film in the Performance Center, I would suggest that it won't happen at all. We won't get a SmackDown because I think it'll be too difficult logistically for it to happen elsewhere. But we will keep you updated. Next up, we have an update on the WrestleMania status of two WWE superstars, Asuka and Cesaro. Yesterday, it was reported by Wrestling Inc. that those two wouldn't be at WrestleMania, they wouldn't be part of the show. However, an update from Wrestling Inc. themselves, Raj Giri writing, I'd reported earlier this afternoon that Asuka and Cesaro were currently out of action, although the specific reason was not known. Meltzer noted that both actually worked WrestleMania and added that they also had no health issues. I've removed the article and I apologise for that error. It's the first time in a long time that I've reported something as an exclusive that turned out not to be accurate, and I will do my best to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Interesting, because I don't know the exact circumstances around this, but it's been reported that WWE are intentionally leaking false spoilers to wrestling media. So, is there a possibility that that's happened here? Who knows? As far as their involvement in WrestleMania, you've got to believe that we're going to get Kabuki Warriors versus Alexa and Nikki following last night's SmackDown women's tag titles. Remember those? So I imagine that's where Asuka popped up on the show. Cesaro probably involved in some way in the IC title match. But yeah, expect to see both of those at WrestleMania in some capacity. Once again, we will keep you updated. And finally, we've got some WrestleMania spoilers for you. Now, don't panic. These aren't match result spoilers or anything like that. It's a few adjustments to matches that WWE are currently advertising. However, if you don't want to hear about them, then that's fair enough. Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in this far. Come and see me on Twitch later at 8 p.m. I'm going to stream Skyrim, but with the Macho Man mods enabled. Twitch.tv/Cultaholic. What a plug. If you're still here, thanks for sticking around. I'm glad those losers are gone, eh? Right, we've got two matches that are going to be adjusted. First of all, it's the match that we talked about just a little bit earlier. It's the Miz and Morrison versus the Usos versus the New Day. The ladder match for the SmackDown Tag Team titles isn't going to happen in that form. Reportedly, the Miz was sent home and that match won't take place. Now, there are reports circulating that it may be a number one contenders match between the Usos and the New Day. That might happen. There are reports circulating that Miz and Morrison may drop the SmackDown Tag Team titles. All speculation at this point, because only a select few know, but don't expect that match to take place as it's currently being advertised by WWE. However, on the Raw side of things, in the tag scene, there's also problems, because Andrade has been sent home injured with a rib injury. We don't know the severity of that. We'll keep you updated on that. However, Andrade, of course, was scheduled to team with Angel Garza to take on the Street Profits for the Raw Tag Team titles. That can't happen either. He has been replaced. Andrade has been replaced in that match. I'm going to tell you who. It's an NXT superstar. It's Austin Theory. A really surprising choice here. I guess it's slim pickings at the Performance Center, but I'm really, really surprised that they went with Austin Theory. He's a guy that, you know, he's absolutely amazing. Like, I love, I've seen some of his matches in Evolve. Very, very talented. He's only like 22 years old, I think, and they've obviously got very high hopes for him. What a match to be having, even in front of nobody. He's got a WrestleMania match already, and he's a guy who's not even used that much on weekly NXT. Like, he hasn't had a takeover match or anything. So, fair play to him. And I don't get the connection either. Like, he's got no affiliation with Angel or Zelina or Andrade, but maybe that will be explained on an upcoming NXT or Raw next week, or Suitin, I don't know. We will see, but there you go. Big opportunity for Austin Theory. See you in a bit.